you can see, I got a big bag from Big Wheel Burger, and I've got a big burger in there, let me tell you. It's a big one. So I'm going to open that up real quick, but before I do that, I got some shout-outs. Anthony, George's Fishing Adventure, big shout-out to you, my friend. Oblercy, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing these names right. It looks like Oblercy or Oblercy. Malo Arcade, or maybe it's Malo Arcade, I'm not sure. And Astroblade Triple C. Astroblade Triple C. I apologize if I mispronounced your names, but sometimes it's kind of hard to know how they're pronounced when I see them written. So anyways, yeah, you know I'm talking to you, and a big shout to all of you people. I appreciate your support, and you're tuning in all the time, and I love your comments, and a big shout out to the rest of you as well, okay? So a big shout out to everyone. So I'm going to lose the glasses here. Let's open this bag. I got some dipping sauce, ketchup and dipping sauce. I got an orange cream soda. That's a Big Wheel Burger. Got some French fries. And some pickles. Deep fried pickles. Wow. They don't make it easy. Okay. Wow, these look really good. Dill sauce for the deep fried pickles. Those are good. Now, Big Wheel Burger. Big Wheel Burger is a local burger joint. They only have about 5 or 6 outlets, and they're all on the island here. I think they're franchising, and they opened about, it was before COVID. I meant to ask the young girl when I was there when they opened, but I think it was around 2018 or 19, and I used to see them lined up outside the door, and this was before COVID. I mean, during COVID, people are lined up outside all the time for the obvious reason, right? But this is a very popular place, and when I went there today, there were a lot of people there. Now, this is one of the more expensive burger joints. I paid $34 for all this, which I think is quite a bit too much. But then they donate back to the community. They support the community a lot, and they give a lot of money back to charity, to local charities and that sort of thing, helping the more unfortunate. And one thing I like about this place also is they source locally as much as they can. They try to get everything within 100 miles. Sometimes it's not easy to do. Here goes my first bite. Now, this is the third time I've been to this place. And the first thing I noticed was their burgers taste like something that you would put on your barbecue at home. They're very they have a real homey taste. It tastes like a backyard burger. That's what it tastes like. Very impressive. Staff is very friendly. Oh, that's delicious. Orange cream soda. So, today, I'm going to going to talk about hitchhiking. Now, I started hitchhiking. The first time I hitchhiked, I was about 12, but I was with a friend of mine who's 3 years older. My next door neighbor, Monty. And Monty was, he'd have been 15. But we were coming back from downtown in Saskatoon one evening, and we were on our way home, and we had no bus fare. And Monty said we should try hitchhiking. And I was a bit nervous, but then I was with Monty, and I thought, well, you know, he's kind of like a grown-up. So he sticks his thumb out. A few cars go by. Sticks his thumb out again, and a couple minutes later, some guy pulls over. I couldn't believe it. He pulls over, and there's an older fellow. He says, you know, where are you heading, boys? So we told him, and he was kind of turning off just a few blocks before where we lived. But he gave us a ride to our street, and we just, like, to the end of the street, we just walked up. And I thought, wow, that was so cool. I didn't dare tell my parents, but I told my sister. Remember, my sister said, you better not let Mom and Dad find out. But back in those days, back in the 60s and 70s, that was definitely one way to get around, was to hitchhike. That's good. And as I got a little bit older, you know, I was 14, 15, I would hitchhike in town. Usually get a ride. But when I really got into hitchhiking was when my friend Richard and I used to go camping out in Saskatoon. There was a park called Prince Albert National Park in northern Saskatchewan, and the resort was the campground or whatever. The resort was called Waskesiu, and that was about a 3-hour journey from Saskatoon. So the first thing we had to do was we had to go to the outskirts of town. So once we got to the outskirts of town, then it was easy to start hitchhiking. And I remember we had our camping gear. This was our first time going up there together. And we got a ride almost immediately. Now our goal was to try and get a ride to Prince Albert, which was a small city, much smaller than Saskatoon. And then beyond that was the park, Prince Albert National Park, and our destination was Waskesiu, the resort. So we got a ride about halfway to Prince Albert. Then the guy dropped us off, and we were standing in the middle of the highway. And this is like in the evening, you know, after supper. But the days are long. That's kind of a weird feeling, just standing there on the highway. But then a car came along. A few young fellas in there picked us up, gave us a ride. And they drove us to the other side of Prince Albert, so we were already on the outskirts. They dropped us on the outskirts on the other side, so it'd be easier to hitchhike to Waskesiu, and we did. From there, we just started hitchhiking, got a ride almost right away. Got to Waskesiu probably around 8 o'clock. The days are still long, it was summertime. So we did that pretty much all summer. Hitchhiked back and forth. Never any problems, no issues. One time this lady picked us up. She was a little bit older, probably in her 50s, and she was really nice. I mean, we looked really scraggly. We were like 15, 14, 15 years old, long hair, you know, pimply faces, jean jackets, and she picked us up, no problem. And she even said, "Oh, I'll let you listen to some of your music, you know." So she put the radio station on a rock station. She said, "Oh, you have a few miles of your music." And she was very nice. So anyway, our friend Jim was a year older. He got his license when he was 16. So we were able to drive up to Waskesiu, because we'd all go up there, we'd all pile in the car. There'd be about 6 of us. Yeah, five for sure anyway, 5 or 6. And we'd head up there, we'd just have a blast all summer long. So that's where I really got a taste of hitchhiking. So anyways, as time went on, I would hitchhike around town and hitchhike whenever I had to. I mean, Saskatoon had an excellent bus system, but if I didn't have the 10 or 15 cents, whatever, then I was SOL, so I'd have to hitchhike or walk. So, after I left Saskatoon, I moved out here to Vancouver Island. That was in 74. I got these fries right here. These are very good fries, by the way, very good. So I moved out the island in 74. And we moved to a very rural area. Called Chase River. And the town I live in, that I still live in right now, is called Nanaimo. I know it's not easy to pronounce, it's an indigenous word, Nanaimo. Anyways, so that's where I live now, and I moved here in 74. Messy burger, but good. Their sauce is really good. So, Chase River, the small community that we lived in, very rural, was not really officially connected with Nanaimo, but eventually it would be about a year later they would amalgamate, and it would become part of Greater Nanaimo. But there was no bus service, not a lot of traffic out there. And I used to joke, if you were hitchhiking, you saw one car every 3 days, but that was a bit of exaggeration. But in 74, we moved here in June. I didn't know anybody. I had no friends. I was just on my own, so I would hitchhike into town. And we kind of lived at the top of the hill, so I'd just walk down, go stand at the crest of the hill. If I wanted to go to town, I'd stick my thumb out and down. People going into town from Chase River felt obligated to pick up anybody, because it was kind of like, we were all neighbors, right? And so they would always, if the first car didn't pick me up, the second one would for sure. So getting a ride into town was never a problem, even though there wasn't that much traffic. I mean, like I said, the first or second car would always pick you up. So anyways, that was easy getting into town. Getting back was a little bit different because we were off the highway. Excuse me. And most people were not going in that direction. They keep going along the highway south towards Victoria or whatever. lot of times when I hitchhike from town back home, it was a bit more difficult. They'd drop me off kind of at the corner, but then I still had about a half-hour walk to my house, which is no big deal. But back then, there's no street lights; it was pitch black, very rural, a lot of like very woodsy. And that didn't bother me, but I'm just saying that's the way it was. So this one night, I'm 17 years old, and I'm hitchhiking back home. As truck stops, like a 52 Chevy or something. I get in. The guy said, "Hey, where are you going?" I told him. He said, "Okay, I live out that way. I live a bit further." So we started driving, and we're driving along, and I can see he's kind of like a hippie guy. And when I say hippie, I don't mean any disrespect. I'm just trying to paint you a picture. But he was just a little bit older. He had these wire frame glasses, round glasses, and long braid. And he wore this like that frilly buckskin suede, with all the frills and moccasins and that kind of thing. Very friendly. His name was Joe. And I noticed as I turned around, there's this skull hanging at the back of his lip by the behind the seat. And he says, "Does that bother you?" And I go, "Oh no." I lied to kind of freak me out a bit. But he just explained that he had bought that somewhere. It wasn't a real skull, but I guess he liked it. So we're driving along, we're almost at my place, and he lived a bit beyond that. He says, "You want to go for a beer?" I thought, sure. I mean, I was up to some adventure. I didn't know anybody. I had no friends. Why not? It was better than hanging out by myself. So we went to this bar out towards the airport, and that was the one and only time I'd ever been there. It was called the Cassidy, and I'd only been there that one time, and it was kind of like a roadhouse, off a busy highway, and there was no need for me to go all the way out there to go to the bar. There was plenty of bars in town, and I have to tell you, back then, this is the God's honest truth. Back in the 70s, Nanaimo, the town that I live in, had more bars per capita than any other city in Canada. I'm not sure if that still stands, but it was back then. We even had the first floating pub, which we still have, still here, down on the water. So there was no need for me to go all the way out to the airport. I had no car anyway. There's lots of bars in town. Even though I was 17, I could usually BS my way in. So we went to this bar, and they never ID'd me or nothing, so we're sitting against the wall, we're just drinking and just talking away, and Joe was a really nice guy, I would find out later he was 39, but he didn't really look it. So we would just talk about, different things, about life, and about Bob Dylan and stuff like that. Very messy. But he was a really nice guy. And after that, he drove me home. Probably got home maybe around, I don't know, 1 in the morning. I slept downstairs so my parents didn't know when I came in or when I left. That same bar, the Cassidy, it really became a biker bar one time. It was nothing uncommon to drive by and see just a whole row of Harleys, all parked. A few Hells Angels standing around outside. They eventually leveled that bar a few years ago. No, it burnt down, that's what So I used to run into Joe from time to time. I'd run into him at a bar somewhere, and hey Mark, hey Joe, how are you? Oh, it's always a lot of fun, just always, not really doing anything, and kind of very laid back, and he always seemed to be by himself, but yet I'd always see him talking to somebody or something. I would run into him, like I said, every once in a while. I think I ran into him about 6 times over a period of 4 years. And the last time I saw him was in 1978 at an outdoor concert in Vancouver. The headliners were Heart. Heart was headlining, and Little River Band was there as well, and a few other bands. And that was the last time I saw him. We had a good talk, and this was in the afternoon I saw him. And I remember just walked by. I came out of the bathroom, said it was, and he was just standing there leaning against the wall. I said, "Hey Joe, hey Mark," and he was telling me he'd gone to Alberta to visit his best friend, and he really had the hots for his best friend's wife. And I thought, good luck with that one, Joe. But he was a funny guy. But I never saw him after that. And I've spoke about this before, how people come into your life fleetingly, but they mean so much. It's like they come in, they write a chapter in your book of life, then they leave. And I would like to see Joe again. He was just so funny. I mean, I'm sure he's probably passed on by now, because he was 22 years older than me. I mean, I'm 66 now. So he'd be 88. Considering his lifestyle, I thought he'd still be alive, but now, this is when I was still going to high school when I first met Joe, back in 74, and I was still living at my parents' house. So right around that same time, I was going home this one night, and I'd hitchhiked and somebody dropped me off at the corner, and I had to walk that 20 or 30 minutes to get home. And there was hardly any traffic going down there, but all of a sudden this car goes by, and then it stops. And then backs up, and the guy said, "Do you want to ride?" And I said, "Sure." So I get in, and his name's Mike, and he worked for the BC Ferries. And he lived a little bit further on from where I lived too. He could have been neighbors with Joe for all I know. But he always got off work at 11 o'clock at night. And so he says, "Are you into going for a beer?" And I said, "Sure." So I went for a beer at a different bar downtown. And I saw this girl from school that I recognized there with one of her friends. So the 4 of us all got together, and then had a few beer and a few laughs, and they wanted to ride home. So Mike said, "We can give you a ride home." So we started driving. It was raining really hard. And we started driving up this street. It's really dark, and in this area of town. And there's this guy lying in the middle of the road. So we pulled the car over. I was lying there, his ears bleeding. Right about then, some other car stopped, some people came over, and everyone said, "What happened?" He said, "Somebody threw a beer bottle at me." And we could hear sirens, so we knew an ambulance was on the way. But it was kind of weird, but I mean, he wasn't seriously hurt, and why he was just lying there in the rain on the road, I'm not sure. Maybe he was just kind of in shock or something, but his ear was bleeding. But anyways, I'm sure he was fine after that. It was just kind of a weird thing to come upon, and I hope he was okay. So we gave those gals a ride home, and then Mike dropped me off. And then I only ran into Mike a couple times after that, and that was, I used to run into Joe for a period of 4 years, but with saw him a couple more times after that. This all happened within about 6 months, but it was always the same thing, Let's go for a beer, and then we'll go have a few beer, and then, smoke cigarettes or whatever. He was a lot different than Joe. He was, just your average clean cut, your average working stiff, had a nice Toyota stick shifting. Really went good, really fast. But he was separated from his wife, and he had a kid or 2 kids, I can't remember, but he had a good job, I know that. Now, once I finished school, I went to work in a logging camp, so I was never out that way. I mean, I still went to visit my parents, but by then I was driving. I was no longer hitchhiking out that way, at least of all not at nighttime, so I never crossed paths with Mike after that. So, I didn't really care about, Mike was, just a nice guy. We went for a few beer, but if I could have seen one of those guys again, I would love to have seen Joe, because Joe was just, he was so interesting, and he always gave me confidence in myself. He always told me that I was a really smart guy, and, I could do anything I wanted, and, this guy, he always really instilled a lot of confidence in me. That's messy. People comment that I wipe my face too much, but sorry, I can't help it. So anyways, I went to work in a logging camp when I was out of school, and to get this logging camp, I'd have to go west to a town called Port Alberni. First of all, I have to go through a town called Parksville, then to Port Alberni. Once I got to Port Alberni, the logging camp was 30 miles by logging road, very rough. Basically, southwest, it was a very rough road, just beat the crap out of your vehicle. Now, when I started working there, the company I worked for, Metal and Blow Dow, Mac and Blow, they had a good, strong union, the IWA, International Woodworkers of America. Very strong union, excellent contract. When you lived in camp, you ate like a king, and you lived in bunkhouses, and they only charged you $1.25 a day. That was a joke, And we had, Tuesday night was steak night, it was great. Ate like a king. To get into camp, you could catch a taxi cab from a certain cab stand. They had a contract, and it only cost you $1.75, and the company would pick up the rest of the tab. It was probably a 25 or 30 mile or $30 fare, but the company picked up everything except for $1.75, which you paid. That was a deal and a half right there. Got some of my pickle chips. So, if you wanted to go into camp, you'd catch the taxi at 7 o'clock. But sometimes, for whatever reason, I'd go in early or something. I can't remember why I'd go in early, but I just would. So, of course, I would hitchhike. But until I got a car, until I bought a car, I had to hitchhike anyway. Sometimes I'd take the bus. But the thing about buses and taxis, you have to rely on their schedule. When you hitchhike, you pick your own hours. Might take you longer, but it's generally gonna be a lot more interesting too. So I'd have to hitchhike from Nanaimo to Parksville, Parksville to Port Alberni, Port Alberni to the logging camp. Now, generally, I could get a ride pretty quick. I just always had to make my way out of town, get to the outskirts of town. That was a lot of times the more difficult part. So anyways, I'd get a ride. It may take me 3 or 4 rides, maybe 4 or 5 rides, going to the camp. Now there was a couple of marinas just up ahead, China Creek Marina, and there was I think another division. I think there was another smaller logging division. Excuse me. And but they'd give you a ride either halfway or whatever, but you were never on that road for any length of time before somebody would pick you up. And leaving camp was a cinch. I mean, if I didn't prearrange my rides ahead of time, I just walked to the mouth of the camp, you know, the driveway, like the road in, the road out. I'd just stand there and the first vehicle would pick me up. Because, I mean, it was like a camaraderie. I mean, I worked in the camp, of course, someone's going to pick me up. And the first truck didn't, the second one would. You know, it was very easy getting out. Now, of course, by the time I got off work and got showered and got my stuff together, it was pretty much supper time, so leaving then, especially during the shorter days, it would get dark pretty quick. So a lot of times by the time I even got to Port Alberni, it was pitch black. And then I still had to go from Port Alberni to Parksville to Nanaimo. Now, that was just an ongoing thing. I mean, that's just, you know, you take the good with the bad, right? I always made it home. And I want to say, I never had a bad experience hitchhiking. The worst thing that happened to me, and this is nothing. One time I was hitchhiking on this busy road. This car pulled over. So I ran up there. I was almost up there. Just about ready to grab the door handle and they pulled away. That's the worst thing ever happened. I was never mugged or beat up or threatened. No one ever drove me 10 miles out of my way and left me, you know, nothing like that. It was always a good experience. I never felt unsafe. So many times I'd hitchhike back on I think it was a 5-day camp that I worked in, so Monday to Friday, so Friday night you'd hitchhike out. The weekends would go fast because you got Friday night, you get home late, you got all day Saturday, then Sunday you go back again. And sometimes I'd go back early for whatever reason. And I would hitchhike. And in between Parksville and Port Alberni, there was a few junctions like Arrington, Coombs, Whiskey Creek. A lot of times people drop me off at one of those junctions because they're turning there. So I'd be standing there, right in this junction, you know, like a fork in the road type thing, just standing on the hot sun. There, back then, I mean, it's all built up now, but back then there was like nothing there, you know. I'd just be standing waiting on the hot sun, waiting to find your car to come along. Now, one thing I learned about hitchhiking, well, two things. There is an art to hitchhiking. Linda always gives me a hard time about this. Sometimes Linda and I'll be driving along and I'll see somebody walking with the traffic, with their back towards the traffic, with their thumb out like that, you know, being real lazy. And I'll say to Linda, that guy's not going to get a ride. She'll say, well, I guess he hasn't read your book, The Art of Hitchhiking, you know, kind of sarcastically, right? I don't really like that Dill stuff very much. But there is an art to it. The two things I learned. First of all, always give your ride somewhere to pull over and make it convenient for them. Don't hitchhike on a busy road or a bridge where they can't pull over and where it's illegal to stop, or where they could get rear-ended or someone could get hurt or whatever. Make sure you're hitchhiking where it's very easy for them to pull over. Because you have to allow them to pull over so they can pick you up without putting their lives in danger or get rear-ended or whatever. And the second thing was always be presentable. I would always always stand straight. I would always stand in one spot with my thumb out, shoulders back, looking straight at the driver. Always make eye contact. I would always have a pleasant look on my face. I mean, I wouldn't stand there, grinning like a dog shitting razor blades, but I mean, I would always have a pleasant look on my face. I wouldn't scowl or nothing, And I would just stand in one spot, because you have to realize that people, when they're traveling along at 50, 60, 70 miles per hour, they've only got a few seconds to eyeball you up and down and make a decision as to whether they're going to pick you up or not. So, you want to put your best foot forward. And I'd always stand in one spot. There's no point in walking if I'm 50 or 100 miles from home. What's the point of that? So I just stand in one spot, always look pleasant, and let them see who they're thinking about picking up. That does make a difference. Because let's be honest, you know yourself when you've driven along, you think, oh man, I'd never pick that person up. I mean, it's not necessarily good to judge a book by a cover, but that's human nature, You have to make a decision. I'll try and catch up on this. So, now also at intersections, let's say you're going along the highway, there's an intersection, all the traffic stopped. If you walk maybe just 50 or 100 feet up from the intersection, when people are stopped there, they can see you up ahead. And that gives them even more time to eye you up and down and make a decision as to whether they want to give you a ride or not, rather than flying by you. So if they have a chance to see you, whether waiting for the light to change, that's good too. But then you don't want to be too close to the traffic, because a lot of times people, they just want to get through that light, they want to be pulling over, that sort of thing. So there is a bit of an art to it, and really it's just about being considerate for the driver that you want to pick you up, and let them see you. Let them see who you are. Now, back in the 70s was an interesting time, because people had these vans were very popular, and people would buy vans and they would just customize them inside and out. Some of these vans were beautiful on the inside. People would spend thousands. Crushed velvet on the whole interior, black leather bucket seats, and like beautiful, an amazing sound system that was anything but stock. I mean, it was just everything was customized. They have a bar back there, a small little TV or something, and it was just crazy, And a lot of times the vans are painted up beautiful on the outside, like a nice mural on the outside, something like maybe a scenic highway scene or a sunset, or what I mean. It's just something really cool, really nice. I think one of my viewers, Louis Garcia, could probably shed some light on that. Anyways, but that's how it was. So a lot of times you'd see when these vans come in, pull over, the guy gets out, opens the sliding side door, you get in, there's 3 or 4 guys in there, and hey man, next thing you know, someone's blazing a doobie and passing you a beer, you're just sitting there drinking a beer and smoking a doobie, and you finally get to where you're going, and so there's a lot of that, I remember one time I was hitchhiking into the logging camp, and I was somewhere between Parksville and Port Alberni, and this bus comes along. I can still remember this. It was like a school bus, but not a yellow one. It was like a real short school bus, like one of the real short ones. But it was more of I think it was like a gray and a green color. It wasn't yellow, or maybe it was green and white. Green and white. Pardon me. Something like that. But anyways, the guy who owned it, he had left some of the seats in up front, like one of the side ones and some other ones, but at the back he had a bed back there and a wood stove and all that, and he had this wooden sign on the front of it, the magic bus. It was so cliche, right? But he picked me up twice. The first flying camp, and he picks me up, and there's already about 6 people in there. He was one of these guys, he would never deny a hitchhiker a ride, ever. And then a few months later, he picked me up. I was going the other way, and he gave me a ride almost all the way to Nanaimo, and then he was turning off just before that. An area called Nanoose. A lot of different names, I know. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, do I pick up hitchhikers? I would years ago. I would never do it when I had kids. When my kids were in the car, I'd never pick up hitchhikers. When my kids were little. There was an exception. We used to go camping on one of the neighboring islands, a small little island called Salt Spring Island. Salt Spring Island is a real, very laid back. A lot of artists, musicians live there, and there's been a few. Well, Stuart Margolin, he's an actor, used to be in the Rockford Files. He lived there. Randy Bachman lived there for well over 20 years. Anyway, I picked up hitchhikers on that island a couple times with my kids because these were very laid-back people that were from the campground. I recognized 3 of them from the campground, and they were going to the ferry, so I gave them a ride. Another time, I picked this lady up. It's funny because my kids, when they were little, they're always so noisy. They're bickering back and forth, they're screaming, yelling. And I pick up this lady, this hitchhiker, and they get real quiet because there's a stranger in the vehicle. And she says, well, your kids sure are well behaved, but she had a dress shop down by the marina. They have all this artsy stuff down there, you know, like people have dress shops or that sell their rugs or their macrame or their pieces of driftwood with shells glued on them, you know, this kind of stuff, right? But anyways, she had a place down there, so yeah, so we gave her a ride. But that's the only time I ever pick up, and that was one of the last few times I ever picked up a hitchhiker, was probably on Salt Spring Island. Because I mean, I don't anymore. I'm not sure why. I just don't usually, you know. My cousin picked up a hitchhiker around Montreal one night. He was on his way back to Saskatchewan. He was heading west, and he saw this guy up ahead. And for some reason, I'm going to pick him up. Now, my cousin is from Norwegian. I mean, I got some Norwegian. My mother's Norwegian. And he's very big on the family tree. You know, he's very much into his Norwegian heritage. So he picks this guy up, and turns out this guy is from Norway. And he speaks Norwegian, and my cousin and this guy had a lot in common. Turns out they became very, very good friends, which was just so bizarre, you know. And, you know, they visit each other, you know, and it was just kind of bizarre. He sees this guy, says, you know, I never pick up hitchhikers, but something told me that, you know, this guy just seemed, you know, like he needed a ride, and he was okay. And it turns out they had so much in common, they became very good friends. So it's just kind of funny how the world works, you know. Well, my friends, that was a messy hamburger, very tasty. I like the fact that they support the local community, but that was a lot of money for that. I can't say I would recommend this restaurant simply because of those prices, but the hamburger was delicious. It was very good. Just a bit messy, that's all. Pickle chips were excellent. French fries were very good. This cream soda is fantastic, very tasty. So anyways, my friends, Anthony, George's Fishing Adventure, Old Blurred Sea, Malorque, I'm not sure, Astroblade, Triple Z. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce your names right, but you know that I know that it's you, and you know that. So I thank you all. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you're all happy. I thank you for your continued support. You take